You are listening to the best, the only place to be on Tuesday night. That's right, you're listening to The Right Stuff, and you're at the right place at the right time. From England to Canada, from Detroit to the Poconos, we are showcasing Christian authors worldwide, giving you tips, tools, techniques, and the resources for you, the writer, to hone and perfect your craft. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time right here on WPJC 104.5. And your host, Parker J. Cole. I'm so glad you're able to join me today for The Right Stuff. We're going to have a great time. I hope you're staying warm out there. You know the weather is kind of crazy, so go ahead, try to stay warm as much as possible. It is getting cold, even though spring is around the corner. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of The Right Stuff. I got some great news for you. For those of you who follow me online, you already know, but I just got to tell you because I'm really excited about it. The fact is that I was featured in the UK's biggest gospel magazine called Keep the Faith. There's a 2-page spread of me in that magazine, so if you haven't had a chance to read it, you can go to my blog, therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. You can go ahead and click on the link there. You can see my interview in that magazine. The Lord has blessed me to be featured in that magazine. I want to thank the people at Keep the Faith for allowing me to be in their Women's Empowerment Edition for March. So thank you so much, Keep the Faith, for letting me be in your magazine. If you missed the article, simply go to my blog, therightstuffradio.wordpress.com, click through the post, and you'll see a copy of that. Go ahead and read it. Let me know what you thought about it by simply emailing me. Also, I want to let you know that we are on Stitcher, so if you want to get this show on the go, simply download the Stitcher app onto your mobile device, and you'll never, ever have to miss a show. As also, I want to let you know that this is part of the new PJC Media Network. Some of you have been following me know that I did start a network, and we will be having a new show coming on board the PJC Network called Dovetails with Deborah. She's going to be joining us on Sundays at 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time right here on WPJC 104.5. I'm really excited to see the family growing under the PJC Media Network. So excited to see what new hosts and new shows come aboard. I give God the praise that He gave me this vision, and I want to continue to go forward with it. If you want to weigh in on our topic today, you certainly can call in at 646-668-8485 and press 1 to be live on air, or you can hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, hashtag Right Stuff, with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break, and when we come back, we will be discussing, is anyone beyond God's reach? We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Are you a reader looking for more compelling Christian fiction? Maybe something a little more edgy or a bit more real? Are you tired of most Christian fiction shying away from the truth and settling for a rose-tinted view of the world and its issues? Or are you an author who has a compelling story to tell, but you're afraid it doesn't jive with today's brand of Christian or secular fiction? Are you tired of Christian publishers telling you that your content is too edgy? Or maybe you've tried submitting your content under the radar to secular publishers only to be told your themes are a bit too religious. We invite you to take a look at the Crossover Alliance. We are an online publishing company that specializes in edgy Christian speculative fiction with Christian themes and real-world content. Our company is formed from authors and readers just like you who are breaking into the mainstream and Christian markets with this compelling genre. Head over to the www.thecrossoveralliance.com for all the details on who we are, what we do, and what we accept. Right now, if you sign up for our email newsletter, you'll receive a free digital copy of our first short story anthology. Check us out today and help us spread the word about the Crossover Alliance, where light shines brighter in the darkness.
Authors, are you looking for a new way to get your book in the hands of new audience of targeted buyers? Then a virtual book tour is for you. Right now, virtual book tours is an excellent opportunity for you to introduce your book and who you are as an author. Launching your book is very important. A virtual book tour will connect you with readers. We at WNL, we specialize in book tours, book blasts, radio tours, cover reveals, and Facebook chat. Promoting and marketing your book is what we do. Online publicity, the exposure and the publicity is what you need. Let us help you reach new readers and a new audience. We take care of everything so you don't have to. We set up the tour for you. We connect you with bloggers to advertise your book by way of interviews, guest posts, and reviews. If you are an author of a newly published book, have an upcoming release, or just want to give a previously published book new life, a virtual book tour is your answer. Check our tours out at www.wnlbooktours.com. Visit me on Facebook. I am the owner, Paulette Harper.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5, part of the PJC Media Network. Again, I'm so glad you're able to join me. We're going to be discussing a very important topic today, and that topic is beyond God's reach. We put a question mark there because some people we may feel who are in our lives, our loved ones, people that we care deeply about, we may feel they may be beyond God's reach. And there's reasons for feeling that way. Or perhaps you, as a listener, are listening in, and you feel as if you are beyond God's reach, as if God's love cannot reach you, God's salvation cannot reach you, His grace cannot reach you. And so you may feel as if you're too far gone on the deep end that you cannot be retrieved. Or maybe, you know what, your life is going great. You do not need God. What can God give you better than what you already have for yourself? So we're going to be talking about that today on The Right Stuff, as I talk to my returning guest co-host and contributor today, Teresa Campbell. Teresa, how are you doing today?
Hi, Park. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fine. I want to say thank you so much for joining us today on the show. I was really excited to be doing the show because this is the worldwide release of your newest book. And go ahead, let's let our listeners know what that new book is all about.
Yeah. So, today my third book, Its Final Deal, is released, and I'm so excited about it. Looking back, Parker, I never ever thought I would get through in writing one book, and to be released in my third book is such a blessing in and of itself. I'm so very grateful to God for His blessings. So we'll be discussing my book. Oh, thank you. Its Final Deal, and you did a great intro to the book. It's about his name is Raymond Brown, but he's popularly known as Smooth Swab. And he's one of Jamaica's biggest drug lords. And this guy, he has 8 children, like 6 baby mamas and counting, He has a lot of wealth, the houses, the luxury cars, his soldiers wheeling and dealing all over Jamaica. Basically, it's like it's his world, and everyone else, you just basically exist. And so he has this motto that says, I don't do God. He wants nothing to do with God. I'm doing well by myself. God can stay where He is, and I'll stay where I am. So we're going to talk about what happened, why this character, this person, feels that he doesn't need God. He has his wealth, which he feels that he accumulated all on his own, and everything is going well. So why do I need God? So we talk about different themes. We're going to look at our lack in faith. We're going to talk about child abuse. We're going to talk about redemption. And, there are certain themes that we're going to explore as we dig deeper into, as you ask the question, is there anyone who is beyond God's reach?
And that just brings me to what I want people to know more about you. And the reason why is because you were here before. I think it was September. Or August.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for my second book.
There. Yeah. And it's so, I always tell our authors who come on board, they may say, well, I was already on Parker's show. I don't know if I can be on it again. Yes, you can. I am here as a partner with you. I enjoy finding out where your career is going, especially when some of our authors have gone on to done bigger, greater things. I love to be there because I can always say I was there when, and I love to be able to do that as part of partnering with our authors here. But, people want to know more about you, so go ahead and tell us about yourself in your own words.
Yeah, I'm just a little country girl from rural Jamaica in the West Indies. I'm currently residing in New York while working at an accounting firm where I'm now pursuing my dreams of being an author. I have released 3 books so far. The first book is Are You There, God?, which was released back in 2014. And the sequel, God Has Spoken, and my third one, which we'll be discussing tonight, is His Final Deal. So that's it for me in a nutshell.
I love the fact that you take on a lot of interesting topics in your books. And this one deals with one that's extremely tough, and it's called people who lose their faith or don't want anything to do with God, And there are reasons for that, and we want to delve into that, too, as we talk about your book, too. So my one question I want to ask you is, when people have a tough time, why do they consider leaving or go ahead and leave their faith in God?
Parker, you know what? I believe many times this has to do with their expectations from God. You see, we serve a God that's all-powerful, almighty, and there's nothing too hard for Him to do. So when we ask, or even yet when we beg God to show up in our situation, and He doesn't, it's natural for our faith to, waver, or for us to even lose our faith. For example, I'll give you a real-life example. I met someone maybe 2 years ago, and I remember in conversing with him, we started talking about Christian, faith. And he said to me, right now, I'm not really dealing with God. And I said, excuse me? He said, let me tell you something. I was a deacon in my church. I'm going to tell you, Teresa, I'm not perfect, but God knows I came darn close to it. I did everything that I was supposed to do, church on Sunday and everything. His sister was just 43 years old. She had breast cancer and she died. Left her children. She was a single mother. His other sister, I think she was 44 years old. She was in a car accident. She died. His mother now has Alzheimer's. She's in a nursing home, doesn't know him or anything. And he got to the stage where he's saying, no, you know what? It's almost like God is taking away everyone that I love. And I devoted so much to him, So right now, he has nothing. He said, I have nothing to do with God. That's just an example of someone who has lost their faith, because we have certain expectation, like, God, I'm doing my part. Why aren't you doing your part? My sister, my nieces and nephews, they had no one. No, he took my sister. She was just 42 years old. She had breast cancer. Certainly, you could have healed her if you wanted to. My sister was in a car accident. She died. You could have saved her. My mother knows Alzheimer's. She's alive, but she doesn't even know what's going around. So he feels that when I was doing God, God wasn't doing me. So you know what? All these things that happen, I'm just going to do it by myself, because it can't get any worse. That's when we lost our faith, because our expectation in God doesn't measure up to what we think He will do. You understand?
That's something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's really something, because you bring to mind why some people may just lose. I'm doing what you told me to do. I'm following the word. I am being obedient to you. Why would you take my loved one from me? And I want to read a couple of comments that we got. We got a comment from Sherry in Sun Valley, California, because I asked her the same question. I basically asked, our listeners, I said, if about losing their faith, why do some people do that? And Sherry from Sunny Valley, California says, if by losing their faith you mean becoming disillusioned and deciding that God might not be real, I believe it comes from people getting their eyes off God and looking at other people too much. Sherry, thank you so much for your comment. If you want to weigh in, you certainly can. Simply call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air, or hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCo, #RightStuff, with your questions and comments. And so go ahead and continue your exhortation on that, Teresa, because I think that's very important that people who are being obedient and, like you said, they don't get what they expect God to give them.
Right. But I strongly believe, Parker, that God would save Daniel in the lion's den, and who saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from that roaring fire. The same God who divided the Red Sea at the right time so the Israelites could pass through. He's the same God now. So, we have to question, why is it that bad things happen to good people? And if God has all this power, and we know He does, as believers, as Christians, we that's our belief. We know He does. Then why is it that there's so much horror and so much cruelty going on in the world? Sometimes, we have to just dig deep and just remember Isaiah 55, verses 8 and 9, where He says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, said the Lord. So as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts and your thoughts. But that's easier said than done. You know, you know how many times you read the scripture and you try to get it to sink into your soul because, you know, you're just fed up of being fed up. That's a natural reaction. You know, you do everything that you're supposed to do, and yet everything is just crumbling around you. And you know, God can stop it in a second if He wanted to. That's when you have to dig deep down inside and try and get to that place where you trust Him, even though the storm is roaring and everything is going wrong. You know, one of my favorite songs by James Fortune and Fire in I Trust You, and he said, even though I can't see and I can't feel your touch, I will trust you, Lord. You have to dig deep down to do that. You know, everything that I see, it tells me not to believe, but God, I'm going to trust you. You never fail me. What's going on is for a reason. If it doesn't kill me, it's going to make me stronger. And some of us are able to get above that, but unfortunately, there are some people who they lose their faith, and they can't get past that. So it's like they're like, God, I want nothing to do with you. You're not doing anything for me anyway, so what's the loss? You know, it's a sad situation, but it happens. I just tell you about that guy that I met, and he's going through it right now. Yeah.
And we are talking today to Teresa Campbell. She is the author of the worldwide release book that just dropped today called His Final Deal. And you can get more information by going to our website, teresaacampbell.com, or you can follow her on Twitter at Teresa A. Campbell with one L on Twitter. You won't be disappointed if you go ahead and pick up a copy of His Final Deal today. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break, and when we come back, more with Teresa about her newest book, His Final Deal. If you want to weigh in, you certainly can. Simply call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Question: if you write a book, everybody will rush out to buy it. Obvious answer, no. If you were a celebrity or if you had a huge marketing budget, then maybe you can get a lot of exposure for your book. Another solution would be to check out joeytweets.com. JoeyTweets.com is a promotion and marketing service with access to over 1/3 followers on Twitter. JoeyTweets.com has 3 packages available to fit any budget. That's JoeyTweets.com. JoeyTweets.com. Get some serious exposure for your books.
Have you read the latest issue of Sormag Digital, the award-winning literary magazine for multicultural readers and writers? Sormag Digital is available quarterly and showcases interviews with the best authors in multicultural literature. Sormag Digital features craft and business articles for those interested in writing. If you're looking for a good book, check out our book reviews on what's hot in multicultural literature. For writers looking for a new reader to get in front of, Sormag Digital is the perfect place to introduce your book. We offer advertising spaces that fit your promotional budget. Get your free subscription on sormag.com or order a print issue on magcloud.com. If you would like more information about Sormag Digital, check us out on sormag.com or contact us at sormag@yahoo.com. Sormag Digital is the magazine for multicultural readers and writers.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. We are having a wonderful time discussing beyond God's reach and how people can lose their faith in the times of adversity. And we're talking about that with my good friend and co-host, Teresa Campbell. She is the author of the newest release that just dropped today called His Final Deal. And Teresa, once again, thanks for being with us on the show and helping us to unpack this topic, because this topic is kit and caboodle to what your book is talking about. It's basically saying whether or not, first, is there anyone beyond God's reach, and why sometimes people don't do God, like Suave says in his in the book. And so I want to kind of ask you another question here. Conversely, there are some people who don't do God because they're doing well, and that means that their bills are paid. I'm not saying they're necessarily rich, let's say, but they're not having a bad time. Life is okay for them. They're able to handle some of the things that hit them with ease. They don't need God because I'm fine. What can God do better for me than I'm already doing for myself? So why are some people like that when they may be doing well, so they think they don't need God?
Well, if you look at it, Parker, if you're living, I would say in Jamaica we have this saying, any and any old way, You know what I mean? You don't pray, you don't read your Bible. You know there's a God somewhere where you haven't acknowledged him, you know, whatever, I'm doing me. And yet, everything is going okay for you. You have no problems, as you said. Some people, you know, they're wealthy in their own right. Things are doing good. So now you have to believe that everything that I'm accumulating, right, I'm doing it by myself. So God is not in this, and I'm doing so well. Then really, who really needs God, right? God is not there for me because I've never acknowledged, I've never asked him to help me make any decision, yet I make all the right decisions because it works out. So obviously, I'm doing a better job myself. But I strongly believe when you started believing that everything that you're doing or everything that you have is of your own will, then that's when you started losing faith also in God's ability, because he has nothing to do with your life, and yet everything is going okay. On the other hand, you know, your sister or relative or a friend who's all into God, they do everything right, and they doesn't even have even a third of what you have. They have problems every day. They're going through stuff. They're complaining and they're praying and fasting, and they look like they just keep getting worse every day. You're not doing all that. And look at me. I'm the man. The same thing Paul says. So I say, you know what? I don't do God, and look at me. I'm a multi-millionaire. You know, everybody looks up to me. I have so many people I'm paying out of my pocket. And then he's selling drugs, weed, and he's doing cocaine. One of my characters in my book, Reverend Stanford, said to him, you need to stop selling that poison because you're killing off the children of God. And he's like, poison, are you kidding me? This is making me wealthy. So Swab is a good example. God has nothing to do with what he's doing, but yet he's flourishing so well in his illegal activity. And it doesn't have to be illegal. You're just doing your own thing without God, and it's working. So if it's not broken, then why fix it? Right? That's the attitude. But one day, when that storm hits, and then you realize that we all go through it at some point, then that's when your faith comes in. What are you going to do? Because now you can't do it on your own. You need a higher power. That same God that you've been ignoring all this time, are you going to run to him? What are you going to do? Can you still do it on your own? And Swab found himself in that same situation. So that's my personal belief on that.
I really like how you said that because it brings me to mind the narrative that Christ said in the Bible where he talks about the one that built his house on sand and the other that built his house upon a rock, and just how the destruction of both of those houses, well, the one house wasn't destroyed when the storms came. When they got hit by the storms, it was able to stand, but the one that was built on sand, when the storm, the ruin of it was great. The Bible says it was very great because of that. And, you know, if you think about it, storms tend to come upon you when you're not expecting them, and they tend to happen at the least moment. You can have a good year, a couple of good years. You know, God bless you for that, you know, but there's going to be times when it won't always be fair weather. It won't always be simple. I want to read a comment from Sheila in Detroit. Sheila says some of the reasons are, 1, the loss of a loved one, especially a child. 2, when a person no longer sees the church as a support system, they will hold resentment and anger towards the church. They felt the church mistreated them. That was 3. And then 4, they do not fully understand what they are being taught and will find all sorts of fault with the church doctrine. They become very judgmental. Sheila, thank you so much for your comment. And then Bethany from Nashua. Oh, yeah, and Bethany from Nashua, New Hampshire says because they never had saving faith to begin with. Bethany, thank you so much for your comment. You can weigh in simply by calling in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Or you can hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. So it kind of brings me to my next question here, Teresa, because you know, we're talking about this topic, but Swab can easily be any of us, and I was going to relate a story. I knew a girl years ago now. I can't remember her name now, but her boyfriend at the time, from what she told us, he was into dealing drugs or something, and she knew about it, and she was with him for a long time, and the day he got caught by the police, by the authorities, she had gone on a huge shopping spree because he had all this money. And I remember looking at her going, that doesn't bother you. You know, what I mean? It doesn't bother you that
right,
you're benefiting from that, And so it's situations like that where you go like, now you know that this person is doing illegal activity. It don't have to be drugs either, but just some illegal activity, and yet you're being benefited by that. Would that put someone in the same category as like Suave's character in the book His Final Deal?
Well, you know what? Some people, in my opinion, as like this girl you just spoke of, maybe it could be rationalizing what she's doing and said, listen, I'm not the one that's doing it. You understand? But I'm benefiting from it. So if anyone is going to get caught, then definitely it's not me. And then it also has to do with your life and what you believe, Parker. For you, you'd have probably bothered you because you know God on a certain level, and you know what's wrong from what's right. Again, it's like two peas in a pod, right? If I don't know, and my faith also is not that strong in God, or I don't have any faith in God, then who cares what you do? It's all about survival. And if that's what you're doing, and I'm benefiting from it, then it's all good. So that's it. So it has to do with your knowledge of God, what is right from wrong, what you think. For me, it would have bothered me, because maybe before I knew God and I was living a certain way, morally I would say, it's wrong, but, it's not for long. Like Suave, he did the same thing. When he started having those encounters and everything started going wrong, he tells his loved one that, you know what, I'm just going to get a few more millions. Just give me a little more time, and I'll get out of it. So you try and justify this. He also said, if I'm not doing it, someone else is going to do it. So why not benefit from doing it? So and he has a lot of women. He has a lot of women. As I said, 8 children, 6 baby mamas, and counting. And that's one of the things that he does. He gives them, they have the cars, give them the money, they get the shopping, and they do what, and they felt nothing was wrong with it. They just go with the flow. So it also has a lot to do with your faith, what you believe is right or wrong. It's just a moral judgment. That's it.
So it brings me to my next question. What about some people who believe that they or there are other ones in their mind that they're beyond God's reach? And so in your opinion, why do you think they feel that way? Some definitely has to do with their ego. The ego. I've never gone to church. I don't have a relationship with God. I don't even know if I'm a Christian or I'm an atheist. I don't know what I am. And, and I'm doing okay. We just discussed that, But I think what it comes down to is like there is God and there is me. It's like we don't have a relationship. God is doing his stuff and I'm doing my own thing. So God doesn't have anything to do with me, and I don't have anything to do with God, and I'm okay. So why is it that I'm going to mess with God? Also, if I'm not receptive to God, how can God reach me? And then they've built this wall that separates them in their mind from God, not knowing that if God wants you and he wants your attention, he's going to do whatever he has to do to get it. So I'll do the same thing. But if you look at Suave, it started from when he was a child. You see, at 12 years old, his mother into church and his father, and he believed in God. And then he got himself in a situation where he was crying out to God and said, God, can you help me? He was being abused, and day in and day out, this person that he trusts that's supposed to protect him and care for him was being abused. And he used to cry to God and pray for God to help him, and God never came. And then he was like, you know what? When I wanted God, he's not there. He was homeless, sleeping on the street, had nothing, and was able to elevate himself. He started dealing drugs. That was his way out. So there is justifying a means to an end. That this is the only thing I know. Do not have no college degree. I'm not going to get a job. He found his mentor was doing the same thing. He was introduced to this life, so he started doing it. So going from being homeless to now owning luxury homes all over Jamaica, you have enough money if you want to buy 10 houses, you can buy it, enough cars and whatever it is. And you do this all on your own without God's intervention, or at least that's what you tell yourself. God can't touch you. When you wanted him to be there, he wasn't there. So now that I have all this power,
God, how can you reach me if I don't want him to reach me? So you just feel like you're in a world by yourself. It's just your world. God doesn't exist, and he has nothing to do with it. That's what it was, to.
I like how Swab seems so relatable, even though I'm not a drug dealer. Swab, I would probably get caught. I mean, I'm not saying I would ever do that, but knowing me, I'm so ignorant. I would probably get caught by the first undercover cop, and he was like, that was easy, But anyway, but I like how Swab is just so relatable in his ideas, because even though he's a drug dealer, he is dealing with the same issues we as people deal with in the body of Christ when it seems that God is not answering our prayers. And so when it seems that we're beyond God's reach, especially like you said, he was being abused, and he's calling out to God, help me. And it's like no one is hearing him, and that is a hard thing for a lot of people to deal with when they say, you know what, I called out to you, and where were you? I want to read a comment we got from Jeremy in Dothan, Alabama. Jeremy says to the comment whether or not anyone's beyond God's reach, absolutely, though not because God cannot reach them, rather it's because they refuse to be reached. In many respects, hell is as great an expression of God's love for us as Jesus himself is. In Christ, God gives us an absolute ironclad guarantee for redemption. In hell, God gives us an absolute ironclad guarantee of his holiness winning out over our wickedness. As Scripture tells us, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Suffering his wrath is undoubtedly the most dire circumstance imaginable, and yet rather than puppeting us out of that circumstance without regard to our will, God loves us enough to leave that decision in our hands, to not puppet us into redemption or damnation, and in doing so destroy the very thing that makes us each unique and precious to him. Jeremy, thank you so much for your comment. If you want to weigh on that comment, you certainly can. Simply call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Or hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break. When we come back, more with Teresa Campbell and her newest book, His Final Bill. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Engaging the culture's imagination through speculative fiction, the Untold Podcast produces audio fiction from a Christian worldview. Find us over at untoldpodcast.com, where we partner with authors to tell science fiction, fantasy, supernatural, and horror stories. Find links at untoldpodcast.com to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, and a variety of other platforms. Each month we produce high-quality audio fiction that's free to download and free to listen. Our submissions are open, and we're always looking to add another great story to over 24 hours of narrative entertainment. Find all of our audio fiction over at www.untoldpodcast.com.
Hi, is your book club in need of some fresh and exciting questions to ask club members and authors at your next book club meeting? Literations, the book conversation game, is 70 thought-provoking questions to really get into an in-depth discussion about the books you and your club members are reading. These questions really get into the characters, the storyline, and into the author's head. These questions may just give you and your book club members a whole new way to get into a new conversation, a literation. Literations is also a great set of tools for bloggers, interviewers, and authors to use as discussion questions. Are you ready to get lit? Please visit our website at litversations.com, LITVERSATI.com. And please like our Facebook page at Simply Said Reading Accessories. Thank you.
This broadcast of the PJC Media Network seeks to present wholesome, thought-provoking, and entertaining content. However, the views expressed by the hosts of PJC Media are theirs and theirs alone. They do not reflect the views of this network or its affiliates. Please utilize listener discretion.
Hello, this is Deborah Duncan, your book evangelist, and today I will be reviewing What God Has Brought Together by Melissa Wardwell. This story touched me on so many levels that it's hard to explain in words how beautiful forgiveness is. It is truly amazing when we can lay aside the past and look at the future God is planning for us. Ryan and Emma's story is definitely a story of forgiveness and healing. This is a picture of God's love for us. The inscriptions on the ring almost brought me to tears, because if we truly forgive someone, we move forward, and we do not allow our past hurts to control the future God has planned for us. What an amazing story. What God has brought together by Melissa Wardwell.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. And we are back, and you are listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. I want to thank Deborah Dunstan from the Book Evangelist for their review of her that book, and it's called What God Has Brought Together. We're so glad that she was able to do the review for that. You will be catching Deborah's reviews every week here on The Right Stuff, as well as on our blog, so stay tuned for more information about that. And perhaps Deborah will be reviewing your book if you're an author listening in, so stay tuned for details about that. We are talking today about being beyond God's reach. Is it possible to be beyond God's reach? We've been talking a lot about people's attitudes and one of the reasons why they may leave faith, or one of the reasons why they may seem beyond God's reach. A lot of that has to do with circumstances and situations that happen to us. Like some people may lose their faith in God because of a death of a loved one, or they may experience trauma, and it seems as if God wasn't there to help them out of the trauma because we've been taught, certain things about God, and we think we know God better than He knows us. So we are here talking about that today with my guest, co-host, and contributor Teresa Campbell. She is the author of the newest book that just dropped today, March 1st, called His Final Deal. And, Teresa, we're learning a lot about ourselves through Swab. Even though Swab is a drug dealer, he's one of the richest ones in Jamaica. He got, 8 baby mamas with 6 different kids, or 8 kids with 6 different mamas, and he's making money hands over fists, And then you said still counting, so that's going to be part of the book plot. Part of the book plot there, too. And I'm really glad that you're kind of hitting these tough topics with your books, and we're able to relate to them. I wanted to get another comment on air. Deborah from Sweetwater, Florida says, I would say no. I believe we all have the opportunity to hear, receive, and accept the gift of salvation, but some people will just refuse it. There are those people who will harden their hearts to the message of the gospel. They are not beyond His reach. They just refuse to accept the gift of salvation. Deborah, thank you so much for your comment. And then Sherry from Sun Valley, California says, no one is beyond the reach of God, but that doesn't mean they'll respond to that reach. And if you want to weigh in, of course, call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Hit me on Twitter, Parker J. Cole, hashtag Right Stuff with your questions and comments. Now, as we go through your book, His Final Deal, Swab is obviously going to have an encounter with God at some point, because do you think God, in general, in your book, I know how you may portray it, but just in general, are there times God is trying to reach us and He's going to stop us dead in His tracks to let you know, first of all, you are not beyond my reach, and second of all, I know who you are? Is that one of the things that you kind of talk about in your book, His Final Deal?
Oh, yeah, I certainly do, Parker. In fact, what I use in my book in relation to Swab is now Swab is at a point in his life where he feels he's the man, right? But you know what happened? When you're at the top, there's always someone that wants to get you down or want to replace you. But he's so confident in himself that he has the resources and everything to stay there that his enemies are like insignificant. But then he finds out that his enemies are not the only one who wants to get him down, but the so-called friends that he thinks he has in his corner are now working with his enemies to get him down. So everything came to, they decided, I'm going to get you at whatever cost. So Swab started going through all these things. First thing that happened is that one of his loved ones got killed. And then while he's mourning his loved one's demise, he gets another call. Another one of his loved ones has been kidnapped and is now in the hands of his enemies. The police are looking at him for murder. In fact, they tell him that, you know what, we find your blood at the crime scene and you're going down for murder one. So everything is falling apart. And remember, this is a guy used to doing things his own way. So murder, kill, the enemies are trying to get you, the police are looking for you, you're being hunted. Also, I should note, Parker, he has this secret that he has been taking from his childhood, that he says, I'd rather die than anyone finding out about it. And it just so happened that someone finds out about the secret and started blackmailing him too. So life for Suave is not the way that he pictured it, or not as perfect as it used to be. So being the guy that he is, he said, you know what? I'm going to come up with this plan. I'm going to make a deal with somebody. And this person is going to get rid of my enemies for me. And then it's all well and done. But no plan is unproved. And if this one doesn't go the way he wants it to, then he's just as good as dead. So someone came back in his life and he started telling this person what's going on. And the person said, you know what, Suave? This right here needs God. You need to turn over everything and give it to God. He's like, oh, me? Are you kidding me? When I needed God, when I was 12 years old, I was being abused day after day, week after week, and I called for God. God did nothing for me. All of this that I have right here, I did that. And I'm going to get myself out of the situation because I'm used to doing things on my own. Well, it just so happened that after a while, when he's facing a murder trap, you know, and then he has an attorney turn to God. No, you can't go to God any way. You're a drug dealer. You can't say, I'm going to turn to God and still deal drugs. You have to give it up.
Yeah.
So you're asking this guy to give up the life that he knows that gave him everything that he wanted to go to God. He's not going to do it. So in this situation, sometimes there are circumstances when we're at that point where we have nowhere else to turn, you know, you have nothing to do but you got to turn to God. It's like I heard someone said, when you're like in the valley and you're lying on your back, there's no way to do but to look up. Because, I mean, you're at your lowest point. And Suave finds himself in that situation. His money can't do nothing for him. His house, his luxury, the woman, the popularity, the whatever, nothing. He needs God, but he's going to resist until the end because he's determined that I'm going to do this my way, not God's way. So God will get your attention when he wants it. And one of the major thing or the best thing I would say that gets your attention is when you're in some situation that you can't handle on your own. That's when you need God to show up and just make things right. Because you can't do it. You need God to intervene in your situation.
We are talking to Teresa Campbell. She is the author of the new book, His Final Deal, which has just dropped down today. Go ahead and love my sister and get a copy of that today. You will not be disappointed. One thing I like about Suave is you tell us about him answering our questions about redemption and about trusting God when it seems as if God doesn't deserve your trust. And that's what it comes down to sometimes. People feel like God doesn't deserve my trust, even though we depend on him for our every moment breathing that we do, even when we don't acknowledge him. And I'm so glad. I always think off and on. I'm so glad I'm not God because a lot of people will be dead by now because I would feel like, oh, I'm the one letting you breathe, and you want to talk about me, and God is so full of love and grace. And like you said, his thoughts aren't our thoughts, and he still gives us grace. We got a comment from Tim in St. Michael, Minnesota. Tim says, the people I'm aware of that have turned away from God do so for a variety of reasons. Often, though, there is some trauma in their life. They also may have unanswered questions and become convinced of the logic of critic. Also lack of love. And then he mentioned there are some infamous ex-believers, Ojo Taylor, John W. Loftus, Bart Campola, for example. Loftus states this: these are the three things that changed my thinking: a major crisis, plus information, minus a sense of loving, caring Christian community. Tim, thank you so much for that comment and that reference. It brings to another question. Do you think sometimes people feel like they're beyond the reach of God because the church helps them feel that way?
It contributes to it. It does. Certainly. Okay. And I can speak to you personally, too. I haven't had good experiences. One of the last experiences I had with my church, I started visiting this church, and I, really got into it. And I'm liking it, and I'm going every Sunday, and, want to do my part and worshiping and trying to live a better life and to build up spiritually and everything. And when my first book came, dear God, I was so excited because I'm like, you know what? My church family, they're going to embrace me and everything and, help me with my book and stuff. And I went and I spoke to the ladies in charge, the secretary or whatever it is, and I was excited and said, you know what, my book will be released. Is there any way that you can, make an announcement for me so, the members are aware that there's an altar in the congregation and my book is available? Now, would you believe me, Parker? She never did it. She never did it. And I'm like, and I was so pissed off, and I'm like saying, what, are you kidding me? I've been tithing here, I've been worshiping here, whatever, and I have a book, and you can't give me some support. I'm not asking for nothing, just to make an announcement. And you know what? If I didn't have faith, because I'm like, these are church folks. If you're talking about your brother's keeper and whatever it is, how are you reflecting that on me? So if I wasn't strong in my faith, you're doing going like, you know what? These church people, I'm not even going to deal with them no more. I'm not going to do church. I'm not whatever. And, if they're God, righteous or whatever it is, and they behave that way, then I don't even need God. I'm going to try and do my book myself and just do whatever and just, forget about them. So church has a lot to do with it. But when you know God for yourself, up close and personal, even if you don't longer go back to that church, you're not going to walk away from God. You walk away from church and the people because you don't want to stay in an environment where you're stagnant and you're not growing. That's what I did. I stopped going to that church, but trust and believe, I'm not going anywhere from God because I know what my relationship is like with God. So the church has a lot to do with it, and I think you read the comment where someone commented on that the church community have a lot to do with that because people are relying on the church to grow. There are some people who are not as strong as others, so you have to uplift them. And instead of doing that, you do the opposite. You break them down. And they fall so far where they have no one to help them up. They just dwindle and dwindle until they're gone. They're like, oh, right there, you see? That right there, I know they weren't going anywhere anyway. It's the wrong attitude, but it happens. It happens, unfortunately.
I hear what you're saying. I know one of my good friends, she is dealing with a huge burden because her church was very cold to her in a certain situation and it's really bothered her, and it still does. And so thankfully her faith in God is strong, but she was just so ripped apart by what they did. She just left, and she is not attending any church right now. And I can understand that because you get hurt so bad by people. You're already down. You're already kicked. You already got bruises. And if someone comes here and throws a bucket of dirt over you and says, that's why you need to be down there. And sometimes in our brothers and sisters listening in the name of Christ, please be mindful of your words, and please be mindful of what you say to people when they are having difficulties, even when they have doubts. Sometimes those doubts can be answered, not necessarily by you trying to get rid of those doubts, but just listening to them, because the Lord is going to reveal himself to them. Sometimes the best you can do, and I remember my mother telling me this, sometimes the best you can do with people is be quiet and just listen to them. Don't try to make them feel bad for their doubts. Don't try to make them feel bad for being angry sometimes at God. I think that's okay sometimes to be angry at God, but not so angry where we want to turn away from him. It's like, you know what, Lord, I'm going to trust you no matter how I feel. And that's not easy it's not easy to get that way, to get to that
place.
Oh,
no. Personally, I can tell you, Parker, I have to dig deep sometimes to get back to that space. And then, I have like my mom, and she encourages me, because when I'm weak, as you said, you have someone who's stronger than you. And then, trusting God, he'll bring you through every day. And then she'll be talking like, yeah. So how long am I going to wait? Whatever, But after you start hearing it over and over, and your loved ones, they're not giving up on you. After a while, you start believing it. You're like, you know what, there must be something in it. I got through today, let me see if I can get through tomorrow. And day by day, and before you know it, the situation is working itself out. So I so agree with you. You need somebody. When I'm weak, I want you to be strong. And if you can't do that, then just leave me alone. Don't say nothing, because it's just going to make the situation worse. That's all it comes down to, really.
We got a comment from Bailey. Bailey says, most of the people I know who have turned away from God is because they have lost their child. I also know some who have lost their child yet still have tremendous faith. Bailey, thank you so much for your comment. We're having a wonderful discussion with Teresa A. Campbell of her newest book called His Final Deal. It did just drop down today. And throughout our entire interview, we've been talking about it. And I wanted to know, did you get any initial response from people who have read the book prior to it releasing today, and what has that response been?
Actually, my response, people have read my book. I had 2 editors who actually work on my book because this is my first book that I'm self-publishing. I wanted to make sure it's in really, really good condition. And one of my editors, she said, you know what? I love this story. Teresa, it's great and excited, but it's like it's different. So by saying different, what she's saying, it's a different for Christian fiction, you know. And I said to her, and I felt so good when she said that, because you know what, Parker? I don't want you to lock me in a box. I'm not going to be that author that's going to be constantly writing the same story over and over, just using different characters and different settings. With my books, you won't know what you're going to get. Like, this is different because, you know what? I'm talking about a drug dealer, you know, which is rare in Christian fiction, you know. So if you're one of those old rollers and you can't deal with someone who, according, is not living the way you feel they should, then you can't relate. Well, you have to remember that these people, drug dealers, this is somebody's father, somebody's son, you know, somebody's brother, and they can find redemption too. God is sitting very high, and He can reach very low, and He can take someone out of that filth and wash them off and sanitize them and make them into something beautiful for His kingdom. So you might work like this one. There's no cursing, definitely, because I'm writing Christian fiction, you know, with this as an urban twist to it. And one thing I can promise you, God is going to be all up in it, because at the end of it all, that's what it's about. So I'm going to write about characters that people can relate to. Sinners have souls too. We can all be redeemed. That's my opinion. And I think God can make something beautiful out of anybody's life. And that's what I'm trying to show you in my book, This Final Deal.
You know, Teresa, I can't think of a better way to end our conversation here, because that's a great, great comment that no one is beyond God's reach. And I'm so glad you said that, because we all hear that in church, the testimony time, and we hear some people's testimonies. But then, you know, some people who don't say anything, and you find out, you know, many years later, this person was something awful, and you're surprised at what God can do. And I love that you said that. So I want people to know where they can find you online if they want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook, Teresa A. Campbell. I'm also on Twitter, Teresa A. Campbell 1L. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Google+. But if they just want to make a one-stop, you know, just go to my website, www.teresaAcampbell.com, and there you'll have all my social links. I would love to hear from my readers, or if you have any comments you want to follow up on what we discussed here tonight, if you get a copy of my book, something you disagree with, you agree with, you have some questions for me, I'm available. Just contact me. I'd love to hear from my readers, and I would so appreciate all of your support.
Teresa, we got about 2 minutes before we have to get ready to close. What is one resource you can share while you were writing this book? Just give us a software or technique or just something that you learned or used throughout the writing process of this book.
I learned, and this is my third book, Parker, and I worked my way up. But in my writing, you're going to find that I evoke strong emotions in my writing. And this is where the readers will be able to understand the implications, you know, that I want to portray. I want them to, like, recoil when something happens. I want them to feel the emotion that my character. So if it's humor, you're going to be laughing. If it's love, if it's anger, you're going to feel it through my words. Strong emotion is engrossed in my story. So when you're curious about my characters and what they're going through, you're going to go through the same thing with them. In fact, in my first book, Are You There, God?, a lot of people tell me, you have me crying, that story, and it feels so good because that's what I want. So I use a lot of emotions in my story. In Suave, when he broke down, you're gonna be right there with him. The grown man is gonna revert to a child, and he's gonna acknowledge. And when God is dealing with him, you're gonna go through every stages. When he's being abused and he's crying, you're gonna be crying with him. So that's one of the techniques I use in my book. I evoke strong emotions in my characters, and so the readers, they can relate to my story and to the characters and get a better understanding of the message I'm trying to bring across.
And Before we go, I want you to give an encouraging word to our authors out there. You know, this show exists to encourage authors whom God has given them the gift to write, to pick up the pen and write. So go ahead and give us some encouraging words to our listeners in our audience today.
I would encourage them to go with your gut. Don't lock yourself in a box. You know, stereotype yourself. There are stories that are inside of you. And you know definitely that you want to say it or you want to write it, but because of this fear, don't let fear, you know, stop you from writing the stories that you know God has laid on your heart to write. In this book, Its Final Deal, I thought long and hard about it because it's not the regular Christian fiction book. And I was fearing, like, you know, how will it be received? But I know in my heart, Parker, I'm supposed to write this book. And I know we don't have much time, but I should tell you also, there's a twist in this book. It is so controversial. I'm waiting for the responses. Well, it has to be written. So to my encouragement is go with your gut. Pray to God, seek guidance, and the story that you want to tell it. Tell it. Don't be afraid to go outside the box. Readers, you're writing for somebody. Somebody will be able to relate it to you. Just explore the ideas and just go with the flow and just do it. Don't lock yourself in a box. Feel free to express yourself because your story is going to touch somebody. Trust and believe there's somebody who will be able to relate to whatever it is that you want to say. Go for it. Go for it.
Teresa, thank you so much for being with us on the show today. It's always good to have you. Can't wait to have you back when you're done with your next project because I love to showcase you again here on The Right Stuff. So thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Okay, it's a pleasure. I want to thank you so much for having me back, and to all your listeners who are listening, thank you for joining us. And please link me up and get a copy of the book. That would be so appreciated. Parker, God bless you. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you very much.
And Teresa, you have a good night, okay?
Okay, you too, Parker. Thank you very much. Bye.
And we were talking today to Teresa Campbell. She is the author of the book, His Final Deal. It is available today on Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. You don't want to miss this new book from Teresa Campbell. It is just geared to change your life, to change your outlook on who and what can be redeemed by the grace of God. Definitely get a copy of that today. You can follow Teresa online at Teresa A. Campbell, 1L, on Twitter, or go to her website to get all her social media hookups at teresaacampbell.com. And don't forget again to buy a copy of her newest book, His Final Deal, available now on Amazon.com. You can read an excerpt from His Final Deal on my blog, therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. One thing I want to say before we end our show that really struck me, what Teresa said, that there isn't anyone beyond God's redemption. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart, that God could take something ugly and slimy and disgusting, and he can make it into something new, bright, and pure, only through his grace and through the blood of Jesus Christ. So if a loved one that you know is hurting, or you're hurt by someone's decisions to hurt someone else, or maybe your son or your daughter is involved in drugs, or maybe your son and your daughter is doing something that is not right, and you think they are beyond God's reach, let me tell you right now, there is no one beyond God's reach. And you continue to pray for them. You continue to uphold them on the altar of sacrifice. You pray to God that he will redeem them with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Don't you dare give up, because our God is powerful and he is faithful to answer our prayers. Don't forget to join me on Saturday for the Parker J. Cole Show. We will be having Women's Empowerment Month all month on the Parker J. Cole Show. We'll be talking about the problem with the purity movement. So you definitely want to join me for that on Saturday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to download the Stitcher app on your mobile device, and you'll never, ever have to miss a show. Thank you again for joining me for this edition of The Right Stuff. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and God bless. Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Right Stuff. Follow Parker online at parkerjcole.com. To hear this show and other shows, visit the show archive at therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. We'll be back same time next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.